Hello, welcome back to the YouTube channel for OQLIS, the Data Insights people. Today, we will explore how to integrate a Microsoft SharePoint list using the OQLIS software. This integration will help you build dashboards and visualize your data from your Microsoft SharePoint lists. So, let's get started. Firstly, I created a list in SharePoint with different columns for people's names, genders, ages, and heights. Before we can build any dashboard from this data, we first need to link the Microsoft SharePoint list to a database where all the data from Microsoft SharePoint will be stored in a table. This is done using a Python script in the Unify module in OQLIS. The first thing we need to do is navigate to the Unify module in OQLIS. Here, we first have to import a few libraries before we can start writing our Python script to integrate Microsoft SharePoint lists. I have already typed the required code, so I will just insert it. Along with these libraries, a couple of packages must be installed before we can access data in Microsoft SharePoint. These packages include Office 365 REST Python Client, PyMySQL, and SQL Alchemy, which I have inserted. In addition to these packages, two classes also need to be imported. These classes are Authentication Context and Client Context, which I have also inserted. We can continue with the integration now that we have installed and imported all the necessary libraries, packages, and classes. The first thing you need to do is to specify your SharePoint credentials and URL for authentication purposes to connect to SharePoint. This includes the URL link to the specific SharePoint list you wish to connect to, along with your username and password for your Microsoft account. Another important detail to add is the title of the SharePoint list you are linking. As you can see here, I have already inserted the required code for this step and have assigned everything using variables. After specifying the SharePoint credentials, we need to specify the credentials of the destination database where the table is or will be located. Once again, I have already inserted the required code for this step and assigned everything using variables. Now that all the required credentials are specified, we need to connect to the destination database, authenticate it, and connect it to SharePoint. This is done using the code that I have typed here, which utilizes some of the variables defined previously. Note that the list_items variable has an items.paged value of 5000. The reason for this is that the SharePoint API has a limit on the number of rows it can return or process in a single request, which is 100 rows. Therefore, I changed this limit to 5000 rows to ensure that all the SharePoint list rows are returned whenever the list extends to more than 100 rows. Adjust this limit according to the desired size of your SharePoint list. For more detailed information on row limits, you might find the Microsoft SharePoint API website particularly helpful. The next step of the code is used to convert the list of items into a data frame. It's also best practice to specify the columns from the SharePoint list you wish to put in your table and use for data visualization purposes. I have already typed the required code, and as you can see, I have specified the column names, name, gender, age, and height. The next step is to ensure that a table is created if it does not yet exist in the database that will store the data from the SharePoint list. I have already typed the required code, so I will just insert it. If you wish to delete the existing data in the table before inserting the new data, you need to include a truncate function. Otherwise, if you want to append the new data records to the table without deleting the old data, you can leave out the truncate function. The last thing that needs to be done is to insert all the data from the SharePoint list into the MySQL database. I have already typed the required code that will insert string and integer values into the database table, so I will just add it. Once we are done adding this code, we can run this Python script. After the Unify has run successfully, we can save it, and the data from the SharePoint list will be linked with the data in the table. Now that we have successfully integrated Microsoft SharePoint, we can finally build a dashboard from the SharePoint list data. To do this, we first have to set up a data model. In the query block, we then just select all from the table we just created in the database, and we click Run. And as you can see, the SharePoint list data is now accessible to build dashboards. Thanks for watching. If you found this video helpful, please like and subscribe to get all the latest updates regarding our software.